Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships. Somehow I turned around and realised it's been a whole week since the last video I did. I don't really know where that week went, but anyway, I kind of realised I probably should do the thing that's kind of my job, so here I am in my usual very professional way. I did play some warships in that intervening week, and in fact this particular game was from Atam's stream. I wasn't actually streaming myself, I was just joining Atam for his stream. And I should probably point out Atam is, if you don't know, a fellow community contributor, although in his case and in my case one of the C's in CC probably does in fact actually stand for cat. So would that be cat contributor or community cat? I think cat contributor makes more sense. He's actually got two of them, so he's one up on me. And I have been a little bit tempted to get another cat myself, but I don't know how Sam would feel about that. I think he likes being the entire centre of my attention, and obviously diluting that would be an insult to his I don't want to say godly status, is that overstating things a bit? On the other hand, he's a cat, so probably not. Anyway, I got a bit sidetracked there. This is the Siegfried, which is a slightly older ship at this point. Atam himself in a rather newer ship, the Marco Polo, which I don't think he was hugely impressed by. It's not a bad ship, it's just nothing particularly anything really. I mean, it's got 16-inch guns, which is nice, but yeah, there's nothing super amazing special about it. It does have that typical terrible Italian accuracy going on, so yeah, it's hard to get excited about. This, on the other hand, the Siegfried, I do actually rather like. There's this and its sister ship, or well, I suppose as they're Germans, technically I should say brother ship, I guess. Both are more or less the same, although with some differences, but the main thing between them is that this has got 6 15-inch guns and the other one has got 9, it'll be 9, won't it? 9 11-inch, or is it 12-inch guns? I can't remember now. I think it might actually be 12-inch guns. So that just has more firepower you can throw down range, and it's still a very hefty caliber for a cruiser, but I just kind of prefer this somehow, even though only 6 barrels isn't exactly amazing. But 6 barrels with, I think, better dispersion than you would find on, say, the Gneisenau. It just somehow works rather well for me, and the armour is overall quite nice as well. Plus it's got torpedoes, it's got hydro, and I just think it's a rather nice package. It's one of the few tier 9s that I do rather enjoy playing consistently. This circling round and round and round, though, that probably wasn't the best plan. I mean, I don't want to commit to pushing forwards, and I didn't really want to sit and just be static, but of course circling round and round means that at some point you're giving broadside to somebody, and so I took a really nasty hit there that I probably didn't have to if I'd maybe positioned myself a bit better, but it wasn't nearly enough to be fatal. I mean, I'm doing better than that Neptune that I whacked 2 citadels into, and I'm already at almost 50k, which is quite nice as well. This cap is looking like a bit of a stalemate though, and our destroyers are, Viper Sox, who's the 3rd division there, has already taken some damage. We've also got German destroyer in this flank as well, and the other 2 are around the sea cap, but they're not really in a position to screen our Ohio and Jean Bart there, so they might take some damage from that enemy destroyer. And talking of destroyers, there's an enemy one in the cap as well, so taking a bit of a risk firing when I know that's going to get me spotted for things, but I did manage to land 1 hit, and although I'm turning away, yeah, that possibly wasn't really worth the opening fire there, breaking stealth. I probably should have just done the sensible thing, or at the very least waited until I'd further turned around, although that probably would have meant only having the rear turret available. So there's another big chunk of hit points gone. The early part of this game, I don't know if it's particularly noteworthy or exemplary. I was eating some possibly unnecessary amounts of damage when I didn't especially have to. But it will get a bit more interesting, otherwise I probably wouldn't have picked this one out. One would think. So a chance for another sneaky shot on that Neptune. I wonder if they're a radar Neptune, because I don't think we actually saw them smoke at any point, unless I missed it. But yeah, the fact that they kept getting spotted, that they were broadside, the fact that I've got battleship guns meant that I think I got the majority of their hit points, and now I've got the kill as well. So that's quite nice. If it was a radar Neptune, then that's obviously good news for our destroyers. But we have just lost one of them to a Minotaur. They got caught out and spotted. I'm not sure by what. Could it be a radar Minotaur as well? I don't think so. Do we not use... I think I see them use smoke at some point, but I honestly can't remember. But yeah, my attempt to get a sneaky shot in there isn't quite as successful as it was with the Neptune. So, next up I have to worry about this Alsace who's pushing through, but there's also a destroyer capping C who might try and come to this cap, although it's just as likely they will try and go for our Jean Bar. We did have one of the destroyers go over, and do we lose the other one over there as well? I don't know, there's just that Shimakaze surviving now, and the Jean Bar pushing into the cap. If they know what they're doing, they might be able to avoid taking oodles of damage. I was also briefly contemplating torps myself here, but I'd have to get rather closer to the Alsace, and as it is, I don't even really get much damage out of them. And the big scary thing for me at the moment really is that Yamato. Those guns can just... In fact, there's two Yamatos. Those guns can just really, really hurt me from any angle. I can angle against 16-inch and smaller guns to some effect, but Yamato guns just don't care. They just don't. So, yeah, that's going to be a problem for me. But more of a problem for Eitan right now is he's pushing forwards a bit. I think he got committed to going forwards here, and given that the Minotaur's also pushing into well within torpedo range, that's a big problem. So oh, there we go, there's smoke. So I do get some damage, but don't get a kill that time. And whoa, incoming fire from... That must have been the Yamato from that angle. But now I'm unspotted and able to get a bit of damage against that bow tanking Yamato, but sadly the Minotaur does get their intended target. Eitan wasn't really able to avoid the torps. It's a large unwieldy ship, the Marco Polo. It's not especially nimble, so yeah, without any hydro or anything like that, there's not a lot you can do except just guess. So that's both the mid-caps now under enemy control, and we are a little down on points, but that De Grossa has isolated themselves. So they're probably the better target to try and pick on, and given that I am in a cruiser with, that's what, a bit of a quarter, maybe a third of my health left, I'd rather be where it's a bit safer right now, because if the Grossa Kurfürst goes down, then they'll all start shooting at me, and I won't last very long. So I'd rather be more over towards my allies and try and do something against this Fat Freddy. We have also lost Viper Socks as well. He got taken out by the enemy, what was that, Halland? One of the enemy destroyers he ran into anyway, and on his remaining health, yeah, it was the Halland, his remaining health, there wasn't a lot he could do about it. Anyway, nice broadside on the De Grossa, although as he's extinguished one fire, I'm going to switch back to HE. It's nothing special, but it's still battleship caliber HE, so it does have a better fire chance than most cruisers, but of course it's also got a much slower rate of fire than most cruisers. It does look like he's turning his guns my way though, so I'm manoeuvring a bit now myself. And yep, that's him firing at me, but oh no fire. But given his smaller caliber and less than amazing accuracy, I'm not all that fussed. And as a bonus, it's actually provided a bit of a window for my allies to try doing something to get a bit close to the Degrosser. I mean, at least for the span of one salvo, and of course the time taken to rotate turrets around as well. So, you know, it might not be much, but it's a little bit, having distracted them, that hopefully will help my allies a bit. So, the Degrosser's gone down. Our GK also went down, leaving the Kagero the sole survivor on that flank. And it looks like they're just kind of sticking around in their smokescreen, which when you're the last person left alive is probably not the best thing to do. Because it tells the enemy at least where you were, and if you're still there, then there's a much better chance of them actually running you down. And of course you don't have any vision then to see who might be running you down, let alone destroyers that can't be detected by further away ships. We are recapping C though, and we definitely need the points at this stage. There's a clear, what's that, almost 200 victory points between us. But given that we have 5 ships, they have 4, this really is still ours to win or lose, and likewise for the enemy team at this point. It really could go either way. They do still have a couple of relatively healthy battleships. So I think the ARP Yamato is less healthy at this point. We ourselves, I mean, we have the Shima and the Kagero left, which is potentially useful, although there's only about 6 minutes in terms of map control and chances to make drops, because it's not like Japanese torps reload super quickly. Although if it is a legendary module Shimakaze, the reload is actually pretty good. It just comes at the cost of flexibility. But in terms of our own kind of firepower and armour, the main thing we have left is the Ohio, who is themselves also fortunately quite healthy. Atago isn't going to hold up to any kind of sustained firepower. That's just not what it's good at. So as long as that Atago player stays relatively safe and is relatively sensible and uses islands, then they can still help out a bit. But if they try and rush in and do anything silly, then they're going to get punished hard. And actually they have been spotted there and almost lost their ship, unfortunately. And I don't know if that's them being spotted by an enemy destroyer, or if they'd fired their guns and therefore the gun bloom meant they were still spotted. But yeah, that was nearly another ship lost, which we really can't afford right now. So the Shima's going into the cap, and we know for a fact there isn't an enemy destroyer in there because it's now flipping, but that does pose the question as to where that remaining enemy destroyer is. We've got the Kagero now, fortunately having not been hunted down in their smokescreen, moving up on that flank a bit. And we also have the Atago making this really inexplicable torpedo drop. And it's not going to be just one launcher, it's both sets. It's a good thing I wasn't going full speed here. I don't know what was happening right at this moment. I mean, this doesn't seem like it was a totally serious attempt to do team damage, but at the same time, these torp drops were definitely aimed at myself and the Ohio. It's just, you know, we were able to dodge them. So I really don't, like, why would you make those drops if you're not trying to throw the game? But anyway, that player got a report for that, because I just had no clue why they would do such a thing. It's certainly not what you want to see a teammate doing at this stage. And they've shown absolutely no inclination that they aren't doing anything other than playing seriously up to this point, so I've got no idea. Anyway, unfortunately, the Kagero gets taken out by the Kitakaze, but the Kitakaze also got taken out by the Kagero. So I was a bit wondering what on earth the Kagero was trying to do there, but it kind of worked out. It led to the death of the Kitakaze, so got to give them some credit, I suppose. The Otago, meanwhile, I mean, they just went out in the open again and got annihilated, but at this stage, you know, what can we say? Is that somebody we necessarily wanted alive and potentially throwing torps at teammates any longer? That might have been a blessing in disguise, who knows. So we are now really relying on this Ohio to push in, be more aggressive. We're running down on time. They have got the hit points, and the Yamato, the surviving Yamato, because the other one I think got taken down by the Shima. Yeah, it's actually the lower health one, which is good for us. And the Massachusetts also does still have a fair bit of health, but they are rather less of a threat. So yeah, we need to get this Yamato down. We now have 3 caps back in our favour, but we still need the points ideally. So still firing HE, trying to get more fires. Also was really hoping not to be spotted, but their spotter plane has seen me, and I am the more attractive target, so yes, this ARP Yamato is definitely going to be focusing on me if they can. It's unlikely at this angle with this amount of hit points that I'll get obliterated, but it might still really hurt. So there we go, there's the fire, but there's the incoming shells, and it does indeed hurt. That's about half my remaining health, and I've only got 1 heal left. However, that fire is what kills the Yamato and puts us ahead of the enemy team in terms of points, and that just leaves the Massachusetts. And I really could have at this stage just tried to charge in face first, but I was not inclined to tempt fate and try and get into torpedo range. So although the thought did cross my mind once again of I'm going to go torpedo somebody, I decided in fact I was just going to play the safer course of action and use this little bit of island here as cover. So a slightly underwhelming end, but this was actually quite a close game, and I think I did manage to make a reasonably important contribution to how it worked out. But it was also just a bit of an odd one in terms of that Otago especially, and their sort of dying actions in this game. I never know what's going through somebody's mind when they do something like that, but to do it at that stage of the game is especially bizarre when things are just so close in terms of being a win or a loss. So who knows. So a bit more damage and some defense flags, Confederate medal, but it's the dying seconds of the game, so we're not going to get this Massachusetts taken down in time. They will survive this one, but it still was a pretty satisfying win. It's one of those games where each team really did fight quite hard, but in the end one was just able to get the upper hand. And compared to the sheer number of ruffle stomp games one experiences, yeah, games like this do tend to stand out a bit more. Although I do have to give World of Warships its due, that does still happen way less often than in World of Tanks, where the ruffle stomps are absolutely 100% the norm, and games that are in any way close are actually, in my experience, comparatively rare. But you also have to bear in mind I am extremely rusty at World of Tanks, so my own influence on games tends to be a hell of a lot more limited. But still, lots and lots of ruffle stomps, and it's less fun going back to garage after 3 or 4 minutes than I don't know, than it used to be, I was about to say, but was it ever that bad in the olden days? I'm sure there were games like that, but it doesn't feel like there were nearly as many. I don't know. Anyway, so there's been a bit of a rambly commentary in parts, and yeah, still not firing on all brain cylinders, that's definitely a phrase. But, you know, a video is better than not a video, I suppose. So, here we are. So, hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath it, and as always, stay tuned for more.